Here is every balance change that just happened in the new Season 5 update. So to start off, Angela had her dash speed increase from 16 meters a second to 18, so she's a bit faster when dashing. And the spear she throws from her ultimate had a health increase from 600 HP to 800 HP, so it'll survive a lot longer. Captain America's ult also got buffed, where whenever he ults, any teammate within the ult will gain a 30% boost to their ult charge, so you charge ult much quicker when you're in Cap ult. Groot is now fully CC immune whenever he is within his Ironwood wall radius, as you can see from the circle on the ground. When I leave it, when I go back in, and he cannot be moved, touched, stunned at all when he's near his wall now. Hulk got a bit of a buff to his shield, so whenever he uses it, and then uses his right click, every enemy it hits, it reduces the cooldown by 1 second. So right there, I hit 2 people, so 2-second cooldown reduction. Mag also got a pretty major buff, as you no longer have to choose whether to bubble yourself or your teammates, as it's 2 separate abilities that you can do. If I can do it, there we go. It has 2 separate cooldowns. And then to balance this out, they also made the shields only have 200 HP instead of 250. Penny also got a nice little buff, as her webs now heal teammates, as well as give them the speed boost that she gets from it. So teammates will now benefit the same thing that Penny does while standing in webs, and they get up to 25 over health while standing in the webs. The thing got a decent amount of changes as well. Whenever he does his leap, gives 20% damage reductions to all allies within 5-meter radius instead of just the ally who left 2. And to balance this out, his self-hit damage reduction, it goes down from 25 to 20. And then whenever he jumps to an enemy, instead of gaining damage reduction, he does 20% vulnerability on the enemy, so they take 20% damage from target. And this is also within 5 meters. All enemies will get hit by this. His right click got the most changes, as now instead of doing a base 90 damage with getting 50 upon activation, it does a base of 55 damage, and it does 8% of the enemy's max health on top of that 55 damage. So when you're hitting someone like a Squishy who has 250 HP, you won't be doing as much damage, but if you're hitting someone like Groot, you'll be doing more damage than before. And then for the overhealth, instead of getting it upon activation, you get overhealth equal to the amount of damage you do, and it up to 100 per hit. Moving on to the DPS, Hawkeye get his Archer's Focus maximum bonus damage from 75 to 90, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it does mean that he can now one-shot Jeff on a fully charged arrow. Fantastic got some pretty major and massive buffs as well. Whenever he goes into his inflated state, he gains 350 extra HP and not bonus HP, so it's just it just adds onto his base HP instead of giving him like the shield HP. And then he can also use his fridge mode while in inflated state. See, inflated state, it just all goes to his normal health, and then you can go into fridge mode, which you weren't able to do before. I didn't do it correctly there, but you get the idea. Phoenix got some small buffs, as her flames have a fall off from 30 meters from 60% to 75%. So slightly more damage at range. Venom got some decent buffs, but small buffs at the same time. His recharge of his web clusters went from 2.5 seconds to 2 seconds. And then his ultimate went from 60 damage a second to 70 damage a second. So you'll be doing a decent bit more damage with that ult. Squirrel Girl got a small buff, as her acorns now do 100 to 110 now. Storm got some decent buffs to her damage boost. When you're in her base damage boost, it went up from 10% to 12% for both her and her allies. And for when she does enhanced damage boost, it went from 12% to 15%. So whenever Storm's around, you and your allies will be doing just more damage in general than before. Punisher got some buffs to his damage and HP, but that is just to compensate for the team up, and he is the same character as before. Wolverine got a bit of a buff, so his claw and his dash damage, percentage damage, went up from 0.045 to 0.057 each. And then his leap went from a 15-second cooldown back down to a 12-second cooldown. So on to support, Adam Warlock got a massive buff to his flight speed, as you can see. So whenever he's in his revival state, you can move much faster and reposition much easier. And then his ultimate got a bit of a buff, as it has less energy cost, and it can revive from farther away, from 30 meters to 35 meters. Cloak and Dagger got a minor buff of going from 250 HP to 275. That's it. Invisible Woman got some pretty major buffs. So her Guardian Shield, which when you right-click on allies, give them a shield, she never was able to do this to herself, but now when you use the button to retrieve it, it will put it in front of you instead, which is very nice. Great for her survivability. It also, her primary got pretty decently buffed as its damage went up from 25 to 30 a hit, its range went up from 30 to 35 meters, and its speed went from 120 meters a second to 150. So more damage, more speed, and more range. And then her shift ability, which is your push or pull, also got a slight buff as its range went from 30 to 35 meters as well. So Loki also got a bit of a health buff, going from 250 to 275 HP. His primary's damage fall off at 3 meters went from 50 to 80%, and now whenever he directly hits an ally, they get an extra 10 health. So it is more rewarding, you get more health for a better accuracy. Rocket got a bit of a buff as well. His respawn beacon went from a cooldown of 45 seconds to 40. His healing orbs maximum count went from 5 to 7 at a time, and their speed went from 60 meters a second to 80. So they're faster and you can have more on the field at once. And then his primary fire, his speed also increased from 150 a second to 180. So Blade got quite a nice team up with this update with Moon Knight. You can use, he dashes and uses his swords, and whenever you do that, you can throw out a bunch of moon blades that do bounce between enemies, and they do a ton of damage, especially if there's multiple enemies close. As you can see, killed one, got one low. It doesn't charge up his vampire mode at all, so you'll have to watch out for that. So Mag got his wand to team up back with Gambit, but a bit differently. He gets a sword, and then his right click turns into this sword that he can throw. Whenever it hits, it does initial explosion damage, plus a little bit of extra afterwards, as you can see. So Hawkeye also got a new team up with Cloak and Dagger, which whenever he does his sword slash, it shoots out a wave of light and dark that heals allies and gives them increased healing, as well as damages enemies and debuffs their health.
You're too loud.
Or damage reduction, I mean. And some of the team up changes, Hawkeye obviously getting the new one with Cloak and Dagger. He's losing his Ice Arrow with Luna Snow. The team up with Cloak, Dagger, Moon Knight, and Blade got removed completely. Magneto gaining his new ability loses his team up with Emma. Operation Microchip with Punisher and Black Widow has just completely been removed. And Black Widow has been added to the Phoenix and Wolverine team up, where she can switch between normal bullets and explosive Phoenix bullets. Where when you use explosive Phoenix bullets, they explode on impact and heal allies while doing decent damage to enemies without doing any headshot damage. You cannot heal yourself with these, it is to be noted, and it does area of effect both healing and damage. And that is it on all the hero balance changes. If you would like me to do a guide on the new hero Gambit, who I've tried out and he seems really damn good, I will do that. Let me know in the comments down below and have fun. This is going to be a fucking crazy season.